Welcome back to the Williams Real Estate Channel. I'm your host, Geordie Williams. Today we're on my boat. And I know I'm not the flashiest videographer. I'm a construction property guy. Started investing 8-9 years ago and now doing the property investing and buyer's agent work full-time gig. So this is my boat. I mean, we'll get there one day with all the videos and flashy stuff, but that's not my priority for now. Priority is investing. So apologies for the raw material. I don't want to make it too flashy anyway. Seems to be most of the flashy people hide behind the edited videos, so I think raw is better. Anyway, that's me. But today we are chatting about how do you know you're going to get stooged, or you may already be stooged. How do you know? I mean, I see it so much now that I'm coming into this new industry of property buyer's agent work. There's a lot of crooks in the game, unfortunately, and I mean, I see property investing through a construction and property development lens, so I can see through a lot of bullshit, a lot of smoke and mirrors, a lot of fancy, shiny marketing. And I think it's not really, at the end of the day, the most shiniest, flashiest content is definitely not the person you probably want to go with. Because, I mean, the stuff that I see online these days, it's crazy. It's they hide behind this facade of being super shiny and fancy. But anyway, that's the way it is. So today we're going to run through some notes I've made, how to detect whether or not you're about to get stooged. So firstly, you want to know the person you're dealing with, do they actually have a property portfolio? Number one. And the actual person you're dealing with, maybe the person or the business owner might have the portfolio, but is the person you're actually going to be dealing with have the skills and experience of building that property portfolio? Because if they don't, then how the hell are they going to help you? That's number one. Do they have the portfolio, and do they have the sizable portfolio that you're aspiring to achieve? Because if they've only got one or two properties, I mean, you can't retire on one or two properties. You need at least, I'd say, 5 or 6 minimum, but ideally a solid 10 plus property portfolio is key to build, hold for the long term, and then enjoy the fruits of your labor once you've built that solid residential foundation portfolio. So that's number one. Number two, do they support all types of property? So I see certain people only support this houses, or going out into the boondocks and buying units for 110,000 and only sticking to one type of product. The reality is you want to be open-minded and have all property has capital growth. It's whether or not you're buying the property at the right time for the right price with the right yield, and you're buying it for at least half the intrinsic value. So it doesn't matter what you buy, it's just whether or not you're buying that property for half, at least half, the replacement costs. That's it. And that goes for all investing, not just property. That's buying stocks in the stock market. You want to be buying stuff for half or less than half than the intrinsic value. Doesn't matter what you buy, it's a price you pay relative to the intrinsic value. That is key to understand. So for us, our solid residential foundation portfolios consist of starting off, if you're starting from scratch, we like to get you firstly into the metro markets in units. and then regional houses, and then once you're into a couple of units, a couple of regional houses, then we like to get into duplexes, blocks of 3s, blocks of 4s, multi-family blocks of units, and that's how you could build a solid residential foundation portfolio. At that point, you may want to go commercial. You may want to keep building your residential portfolio. You may want to then go and buy your family home. It'll provide you many options. We specialise in getting you to 10 properties within that 10-year window. And I mean, you don't need big bucks to start. I started on 50 grand, 45, 50 grand. And I mean, 7-8 years, yes, I've been going hard. But I built it all off a corporate gig. You know, the most I made out of the corporate gig in the end was 160, 70 grand. So, and I've built 17 properties in 7 or 8 years, now worth about $7.5 million. So you don't need a big income. Sure, if you've got 200, 300, 400, 500,000, you'll shit it in and you'll smash it out of the park. But we build the portfolio so they're self-sufficient, and then at that point, once you've got your solid residential foundation portfolio, which everyone should have, it's a backbone for your wealth, your family's wealth for generations to come. It'll support you through the ups and downs. You won't be tied to a job. You can take a holiday. I could go and sit on a beach for 5, 6, 10 years. I'd get bored. But it gives you that stability, that gives you that security, is that solid residential foundation portfolio. And then, I guess for me, my aspirations is to keep building the portfolio. I'm only going to really focus on blocks of units and individual units because diversification is good. Not so much houses anymore. I mean, houses are good when you're sort of getting started, but once you get a bit of a roll on, you just want to be in blocks of units, baby. Blocks of units and scattered. Scattered's good too. Diversification's good. It is a game of finance. It's not just all about buying the property that you want and looking after your little piece. You have to make sure that the banks are going to keep lending you the money and not buying the fancy thing that you think is going to be, provide you the status and all the bullshit. It's about fundamental cash flow property well under intrinsic value that allows the bank to keep lending you more money so you keep growing. And then once, I guess for me now, I'm looking to keep buying blocks of units, but just as an example, eventually I will get into commercial, but definitely not in the next couple of years. As we're due for the next land-driven downturn, the next global financial crisis is on the horizon, so you don't want to be getting commercial these days. Because when the market turns into 2027, 28, just like in the GFC 2007, 2008, commercial property is valued based off its earnings. So whatever the yield is, you reverse engineer that to work out what the price or the value of the property. When the market turns and businesses go broke, there's a chance that your property, commercial property, the tenant could go broke. So if your commercial property, the tenant business goes broke, your earnings goes to zero. So what does that mean? It means your property that you purchase, commercial property, will be worth land value for at least 3 to 4 years during the land-driven downturn, until you can get another tenant. And typically commercial property can get hammered for 3 to 4 years without a tenant. And during that period, that downturn period, you still need to be paying the bank rates, land tax, insurance, upkeep, all that shit that goes into it with no tenant. So if you don't have a solid residential foundation portfolio that can support that, good luck holding on to it. That's why a lot of people can go broke getting into commercial too quick and being too leveraged into commercial. You don't want to carry more than 50% debt in commercial, like max, even 30%. Ideally just go straight into it with cash, because if you lose your tenant, it can take years to get a new tenant, and you need to do massive fit outs to get the new tenant in, to get the cash flow. So that's why you need that solid residential foundation portfolio. I will eventually get into commercial, but not right now. This is not the point of the cycle you want to get in commercial, because yes, a lot of people are chasing commercial, chasing the yield, and that's typical at this point of the cycle as we enter the final 2 years of the land boom, because yields get compressed in residential, so people start chasing commercial. But if you over leverage and you don't have a solid foundation, you buy a commercial asset and you lose your tenant, which is a high probability, 50% chance, maybe more, depending on the commercial property you buy, and you can't hold on to it for 3 to 4 years with no income, the banks will be taking it back and selling it to the next person for the debt that they've got on it. So it can wipe you out. Do not get into commercial at this stage of the cycle if you don't have a solid backing behind you with plenty of cash, plenty of reserves. So, but eventually I will get into commercial, probably around towards the end of this decade, once we've gone through the land-driven downturn and we've come through that, and the green shoots emerge 3 to 4 years after. So probably around 2030, I might start looking into it. But then long-term goals, I would always want to buy a shopping centre, like a proper anchor shopping centre, like having an IGA with Chinese restaurant, Italian restaurant, bottle shop, hairdresser, the fundamentals, the stuff you can't buy off Amazon, the stuff that is necessities, essential, you can never really go wrong. But I mean, you need at least probably $5 to $10 million to get into something like that. That's down the track. Once I've probably built the portfolio to, I'd say, at least 50 or 100 rentals in residential, be looking to get into commercial. And also I'd always want to get into, maybe in 10 or 15 years, into buying a pub. You can buy pubs dirt cheap in the downturns that are not operating. You can fix them up, do a Hemsworth on it, bring the communities in, have every nook and cranny with every single part of the community in the pubs, get them running right, and then offload them at the peak of the market. That's what I want to eventually get into, is trading pubs along the cycle, buy them in the mid-cycle slowdowns or the GFCs, the land-driven downturns, when they're completely vacant and not even running, get them running right, renovate them, hold them for 5 to 6 years, and then sell them. That's a bit of a long-term goal that I want to get into, but not until at least, I'd say, 50 to 100 residential rentals. Because, I mean, pubs, you can pick up cheap pubs in large regional hubs for $1 million to a couple of $1 million. In the cities, 5 million, 6 million. This is in the downturn when they're not running right, and then once they're running right, then you could easily double your money, probably if not triple your money. So that's a bit of a long-term horizon to get into commercial. Shopping centres and pubs is what I'm eyeing off. I mean, I started my career working in pubs when I was at uni, studied construction and property. So I've got that experience running pubs. So it is definitely a passion of mine. I love a pub. Probably love a pub too much. I love having a good beer in a pub. So one day we'll get there. All right, another way you know you're going to get stooged is if the supposed spruiker doesn't understand the 18-year land cycle. That is, I mean, I'm so thankful I have come across this 18-year land cycle. Big thank you to, Philip J. Anderson, Akil Patel, Fred Harrison, these non-mainstream economists. Look them up, get their books, read them twice, highlight them, do whatever you got to do, but get knowledge of the cycle and history. It will save you millions of dollars and will make you millions of dollars. It'll give you clarity. I mean, right now we are in a similar point of the cycle of 2005. Right? 2005, everyone's sort of getting a bit groovy now, and everyone's, it's becoming a bit of a spruiker, and everyone's an investment guru. Come 2006, 2007, it all ramped up, GFC. We're in that final point of the cycle. That's why it is the most pivotal point of the time now, because there are markets that are running. I mean, Brisbane, Perth, Adelaide, the regions are just going gangbusters. Bitcoin's going crypto. All the crypto kings are coming back. Stock markets are hitting all-time high, but it's not necessarily the booming markets that you want to get into. Warren Buffett has been selling all the last 2 years. He's sitting on $325 billion in cash. He sees the writing on the wall. I mean, he's one of the most famous investors going around. He's sold, I think, about 60% of his Apple share. And if you look at prior interviews of him, he's all about buy and hold, and he's been selling everything. I think he's sitting on about 50 or 55% cash, or 50% of his holdings, Berkshire Hathaway, is cash. That tells you something. You can see the writing on the wall. So if the investor or the property guru doesn't understand the cycle, they will only get themselves caught, or yourself at some point, because the booms don't last forever, and they're not the booms are not necessarily the booms you want to get into. Like we get into markets go through 10 years of stagnant flat growth, and then they fucking hook and go for 5 to 7 years of explosion, which most people